In this lesson, we're going to be talking about ethics for expert witnesses. Now, it may very well go without saying that experts need to be ethical and need to be perceived to be ethical, but we're going to go over some of the ways that you can ensure that you are ethical and that you appear to be ethical, so that, again, we go back to the idea of being trustworthy and making sure that you aren't damaging the case that you are involved with, so that the facts maybe that you are presenting don't get discounted because you appear to be unethical in some way. Well, what are ethics, first of all? Ethics are really related to right or wrong actions. Everybody's got their own set of ethical guidelines that are kind of partly inherent to them because of their moral beliefs, but also have to do with maybe their profession. So sometimes professionals have standards that indicate how a particular profession should behave. So often there are organizing or regulatory bodies that suggest what ethics are. In the case of information security, if you get a certification like a CISSP, for example, there's a set of ethical guidelines. If you become a certified ethical hacker from the EC Council, there's a set of ethical guidelines as well. So professions can have ethics in addition to or to augment just your own set of ethics based on your own moral beliefs and your own moral compass. So as I said, professional bodies may specify ethics, and that professional body may be a regulatory body, it may be a licensing body, it may just be a certification entity. But there are professional bodies, and for certain professions, sometimes they specify ethics. One of the things is you need to be impartial to be ethical. And this is really particularly true when it comes to expert witnesses. You should be independent and objective. Now, the goal of an expert witness is to assist the court on relevant matters in the trying of fact. Your goal is really to help the court get to all of the facts in the case so that the truth can eventually be arrived at, and as a result of all of the facts coming out. You should cooperate with legal counsel, all legal counsel, and you should provide complete and impartial information. And we've talked about this in another lesson where you don't want to be seen to be biased in any way, whether that's through leaving some information out or presenting it in a particular way that may lend weight to one thing or another for no particular reason. You want to keep bias out of it altogether. So you want to provide complete and impartial, unbiased information. Now, an expert witness should be compensated for their expertise. You know, you've spent a lot of time and a lot of years acquiring the expertise that puts you in a position to be an expert witness. So, of course, it's only fair that you be compensated for the time that you are putting into this particular trial or court case or whatever it is that you're involved with as an expert witness. Now, again, when we come down to ethics, the fees should not be based on case outcome, and your fees should be reasonable. If your fees are just astronomically high, you may not be seen to be ethical. If you have some sort of contingency fee that you get paid if there's a guilty verdict or an acquittal, that's not really ethical either, because you may be perceived to be shading your evidence in a way that lends itself not necessarily to the truth based on facts, but lending itself to guiding a particular verdict in a case because you've presented information in a particular way or evidence in a particular way that skews the facts, quote unquote facts perhaps, that they're skewed in a particular way, orienting towards either guilt or innocence. That kind of behavior is not ethical. So fees based on case outcome or contingent upon case outcome shouldn't be done. Conflict of interest. Expert witnesses should not take cases that could present a conflict of interest. So anything that would be opposed to something that is going on in your life, you shouldn't take a case where that's going on. Any case where there's a conflict of interest, where you may have an interest in a particular outcome of a case, you shouldn't take that case as an expert witness. Now, expert witnesses also should not switch sides. You shouldn't start on the defense, for example, and be an expert witness for the defense, and something goes wrong and you're no longer an expert witness there. It would be unethical for you then to go and try to be an expert witness for the prosecution, partly because you've been involved with one side and maybe you know something about their strategy or how they're going about things, or some inside information that you could then impart to the other side. That's really not ethical either. Professionalism. You want to be professional at all times. Kind of goes without saying for the most part. I would hope it would go without saying for the most part. Now, part of being a professional is knowing your limits. You should only take cases within your sphere of expertise. So if somebody asks you to be an expert witness and you don't feel that you know enough to really do the evidence or the testimony justice, you should not take on that case. All tests that are performed should be based on acceptable procedures. If you do a procedure on a piece of evidence that may be a little bit questionable or sketchy, or maybe just on the edge a little bit, or not very well known, that piece of evidence could be called into question and you're going to put the case at risk. So you should make sure that all tests that you are performing be based on acceptable procedures. Always be truthful. Don't present false or misleading information. Again, you would hope that that goes without saying, but sometimes it needs to be explained clearly. So you should always make sure that you are truthful and completely truthful, so that the evidence that you're presenting is not only factual and accurate, but is complete as well. So in conclusion, you want to make sure as an expert witness that you are professional, you don't have any conflict of interest, that the fees that you're charging are reasonable and not contingent on the case outcome, and you need to be seen as impartial and unbiased. And that's how you're going to be seen as a good expert witness and an ethical expert witness.